TSN's Darren Dreger presented a fascinating update in the Ilya Kovalchuk sweepstakes. The 35-year-old is making a tour of California, meeting with the Los Angeles Kings and San Jose Sharks. Side question: does this mean Anaheim Ducks GM Bob Murray is just on vacation or something? Now, there's no telling how interested Kovalchuk would be in signing with either team. That said, it's not that difficult to imagine both teams being of some interest to the veteran sniper. Kovalchuk is reportedly weighing winning more than getting the biggest paycheck possible, so it's worth noting that both teams made the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs and each franchise appears to be in a win-now modes. Each squad boasts lengthy recent histories of success that surely registered to Kovalchuk during his time in the NHL, too. Oh yeah, the weather's also nice around those areas. That cannot hurt. Let's consider the other vantage point, then, and daydream about how much Kovalchuk could potentially help the Kings or Sharks. A dream combo in their twilight. The Sharks have money to burn this off-season, even with some RFAs to re-sign, such as Tomas Hertl. An unclear cap ceiling and probable Paul Martin buyout make their exact ceiling tough to gauge, but even after retaining Evander Kane at a hefty fee, the Sharks boast a fat wallet. Let's assume that the Sharks A. fall short in the John Tavares sweepstakes, but B. bring back Joe Thornton and Sean Kovalchuk. For hockey fans of a certain age, it would feel a lot like a generation's Adam Oates being united with Brett Hull, albeit past their primes. So maybe this would be akin to Hull joining Oates when the latter almost won a Stanley Cup with the Ducks, while you'll get dissenters, combining the greatest passer of his time, Thornton, with the deadliest pure shooter, Kovalchuk, would feel like a fantasy hockey dream come true. Granted, that fantasy hockey dream would be from 2008, but it would probably still be a blast in 2018-19. Hockey teaches us that those dream scenarios don't always play out on the ice. Maybe Kovalchuk would mix better with Logan Couture. Perhaps the Sharks would rather load up Thornton with Kane and Joe Pavelski. There are probably even hypotheticals where San Jose moves the two around to try to put together three dangerous lines. And so on. Considering how strong the Sharks looked with Thornton on the shelf, and how they have great assets including defensemen Brent Burns and Marc-Edouard Vlasic, it isn't difficult to picture Kovalchuk to San Jose being mutually beneficial. And, hey, the Sharks have a history of landing some significant Russian players, right down to their early days. Speaking of delayed matches, speaking of Kovalchuk during his prime, it was no secret that the Kings were in hot pursuit of the winger when he hit the free agent market. Some would argue that his decision boiled down to the Kings or the New Jersey Devils. The what-if scenarios are pretty fun there, as the Kings captured 2 Stanley Cups, including one by edging a Devils team that leaned heavily upon Kovalchuk and Zach Parise. As much as Los Angeles hopes to modernize post-Daryl Sutter, the truth is that this franchise likely still values winning now over any true notion of a rebuild. Andrei Kopitar's $10 million cap hit runs through 2023-24, Jonathan Quick's deal is only 1 year shorter, and they're on the hook for multiple years of Dustin Brown still. For better or worse, they may also extend Drew Doughty to a lengthy deal this summer. Seeking free agent fixes could very well be the Kings' path for some time, and few opportunities seem as promising as adding Kovalchuk, even at 35. The most enjoyable scenario if they landed him, after logging around Brown and Alex Iafallo last season, Kopitar could set up reams of quality scoring chances for Kovalchuk, a player who would ideally be far more capable of burying such chances. Meanwhile, a healthy Jeff Carter skates with Tanner Pearson and Tyler Toffoli, giving the Kings a truly dangerous 1-2 punch of scoring lines. Now, it wouldn't be shocking if Carter mixed better with Kovalchuk. The fact that they're both such dangerous shooters could really open up passing lanes. Amusingly enough, either way, a productive and useful Kovalchuk would be a boon for the Kings. Honestly, I'd argue that the Kings would want Kovalchuk more than the other way around, which is consistent with their feelings a decade ago, apparently. The bottom line is that all Kovalchuk talk is speculation, as he cannot sign with an NHL team until July. So, yes, these discussions are largely hypothetical. That's really part of the fun, though, as imagining possible outcomes sometimes ends up being more entertaining than boring old reality. Draft weekend maneuverings could very well alter the landscape and force a single, no-brainer choice for Kovalchuk. As of this writing, there would be a lot to like about the Sharks or Kings signing Kovalchuk, though. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikeSettings. As obnoxious as any internet debate can be, bickering about who should win the Conn Smythe can help cement the below-the-fold stars who didn't land the playoff MVP. For example, it will never not boggle my mind that Chris Pronger ended his career without that award. Sure, he was a fire-breathing monster on the ice at times, but that was the point. From a big-picture perspective, it's fitting that Alex Ovechkin won it this year after sparking the Washington Capitals' run to a first-ever Stanley Cup. His 15 goals and 27 points were crucial to that run, and his epic celebration is leaving us hungover. But was he truly the right choice from an objective standpoint? To my eyes, and in the mind of many others, Yevgeny Kuznetsov would have been the truest choice. So, with Ovechkin hamming it up, rightfully so, and Braden Holtby enjoying a well-deserved victory lap for the save, and reclaiming his spot among the elite, let's take this moment to shine a light on another key element of Washington's run, their two star centers. A postseason for the ages again, it's tough to deny that Kuznetsov was the real Conn Smythe winner. He wasn't that far behind Ovechkin's 15 goals, as Kuznetsov netted 12. They both were tied with two game winners in that regard. The pivot's playmaking was a sight to behold, as he collected almost a helper per game, 20 assists in 24 contests. It would be refreshing to see voters take especially strong work during the Stanley Cup Final into account too. Now, Ovechkin was no slouch against the Golden Knights, generating 3 goals and 2 assists in 5 games. During that same span, Kuznetsov was killer, though, producing a goal and 7 assists for 8 points. Kuznetsov's 32 points weren't just a playoff record for the Capitals and the top mark for the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. That mark also stands as the most points generated in a postseason since Evgeny Malkin collected a whopping 36 points during Pittsburgh's 2008-09 surge. Ovechkin's 27 points leave him tied with Sidney Crosby's work last postseason for 9th best during that same period of time. Remarkably, Malkin's 36 points and Kuznetsov's 32 also stand as the two best outputs since the lockout wiped out the 2004-05 season. You need to go as far back as Joe Sakic's 34 points from 1995-96 before you'll find a total that dislodges Kuznetsov for second place. Praising Kuznetsov isn't about denigrating Ovechkin, who enjoyed a run for the ages and deserves to soak in the limelight after a decade of absorbing an unfair portion of Capitals criticism. Instead, it's about doing our best to make sure that his magical run isn't lost in time. He was unbelievable, Ovechkin said of Kuznetsov after the series, via the Associated Press. He makes the magic over there. Backstrom shows his might. Kuznetsov managed to generate point after point even though it seemed like he might miss a game or more of the series thanks to a hard hit by Brayden McNabb. That thought dovetails nicely into much-needed praise for Nicklas Backstrom. While you only need to glance at the very top of the 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs points leaders to notice Kuznetsov's presence, Backstrom's work was diluted by being limited to 20 games. Despite clearly playing at less than 100%, Backstrom managed more than a point per contest, generating 23 in those 20 games. His assist on this Ovechkin power play goal stood as a healthy reminder that it's easy to scream, cover Ovechkin's office, but it's also easy to forget that the Capitals simply have the passers to make that bread and butter play so difficult to stop. Seriously, acting as though it's easy to stop that is the ultimate in armchair quarterbacking, defending. There aren't many humans capable of getting that pass through an entire penalty kill unit, but Backstrom is one of them, Kuznetsov, too. Of course, points aren't everything. Luckily, Backstrom remained his Selk-level self during the postseason, allowing Barry Trotz to pick and choose matchups how he pleased. The Kuznetsov-Backstrom combination was instrumental in allowing the Capitals to go toe-to-toe with the Penguins' scoring depth, the Lightning's dangerous weapons, and the Golden Knights' impressive top line. For a player who suffered his own torment during clutch moments, Backstrom showed his toughness and made a real argument for how great he can be. Look, we can debate Ovechkin versus Kuznetsov all day, but they were both fantastic. The point is to recall their efforts, not to mention great work by Holtby, Backstrom, TJ Oshie, and others. Here's hoping this post fights the fading of such memories. Now, let's get back to more important matters, bickering about Chris Pronger. James O'Brien is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@NBCSports.com or follow him on Twitter at CycleLikeSettings. After losing in the Western Conference Final to the Nashville Predators in 2017, many expected the Anaheim Ducks to go on another run this year. The Ducks had an up-and-down regular season, but did enough to finish second in the Pacific Division. Unfortunately for them, that's as good as it got. Once the playoffs kicked off, all they did was make a quick appearance. They had home ice advantage going into their first-round series against the Sharks, but they still failed to win a single game during the series. They packed their bags for the summer after a 4-0 sweep at the hands of their California rivals. Veteran teams that get swept in the first round are rarely spared of major changes the following off-season. So what changes might be coming in Anaheim this summer? Corey Perry. When looking at the Ducks roster, the first name that jumps out as a possible trade candidate is Corey Perry. Perry has won everything there is to win at the highest levels of hockey, but there's no denying that his production has dried up over the last few years. Since 2013-14, his goal totals have been 43, 33, 34, 19 and 17. That's a significant drop-off for a guy who's about to earn $8.625 per year for the next 3 years. If the Ducks can find a taker, they'd pull the trigger on a deal. There's a couple of issues though. First, he's expensive. Second, we've already talked about his dip in production. And lastly, he also has a no-movement clause. Finding a team willing to take Perry and finding a squad he's willing to go to won't be easy for GM Bob Murray. Oh, and by the way, Perry also added as 0 points during Anaheim's first-round sweep at the hands of the Sharks. Taking a look at the 33-year-old's advanced stats via natural stat trick, you can see the regression jump off the page. His CF percent 47.46, FF percent 46.70, SF percent 46.70, and SF percent 48.9 are some of the lowest numbers he's posted in his career. This comes 1 year after he had already posted a bunch of new lows. Ryan Kesler, another veteran that might not be available for totally different reasons, is Ryan Kesler. The veteran has had injury troubles the last couple of years and his aching hips could cause him to miss all of 2018-19. The Ducks only had him for 44 games in 2017-18, but it's clear that he's an important part of their team. He's able to contribute offensively while playing a sound defensive game, too. Again, unlike the Perry situation, this one is injury-related, but it still affects their depth down the middle in a negative way. Depth forwards. As of right now, the Ducks only have 9 forwards under contract if you count Troy Terry, who played 2 regular season games at the end of last season. Depth players like Derek Grant, Antoine Vermette, Chris Kelly, Jason Chimera and JT Brown are all scheduled to become unrestricted free agents on July 1st. Andre Case and Nick Ritchie are restricted free agents and both are expected back. Murray has the benefit of being able to add some fresh new bodies to his lineup. There's no need to bring back many, if any, of those depth forwards, so they could look at signing quality depth once the market opens. As of right now, Anaheim has $65 million committed to next year's team. The cap is expected to be between $78 million and $82 million next season. They'll have a little wiggle room, but it's important to note that Case, Ritchie and defenseman Brandon Montour will all need to get raises this summer. Also, Adam Henrique, Jakob Silfverberg and John Gibson will all need new contracts next offseason, so the Ducks can't spend foolishly right now. Defense: there probably won't be too many changes on the back end in terms of veterans coming in and out of the lineup, as the Ducks already traded Sami Vatanen in season. Expect them to roll with Cam Fowler, Hampus Lindholm, Josh Manson, Montour and Corbinian and Holzer. The biggest changes might come in the form of rookies Jacob Larsson and Marcus Peterson, who could be ready to take on a regular shift with the Ducks next season. Both are highly regarded prospects that should be around for many years to come. One familiar face that will likely be gone is Kevin Bieksa, whose 2-year, $8 million contract has finally come to an end. He served as a healthy scratch a few times last season, so don't expect them to bring him back into the fold for another stint. Goaltending: things probably won't be much different between the Pipes. Both Gibson and veteran backup Ryan Miller have 1 year remaining on their current contracts. Gibson will be an RFA next summer, while Miller will be free to test the open market if he chooses to do so. Joey Alfieri is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at Joey Alfieri. Welcome to the PHT Morning Skate, a collection of links from around the hockey world. Have a link you want to submit? Email us at pitblog@nbcsports.com. Many insiders have speculated that Ryan O'Reilly will be moved out of Buffalo, but the Sabres should think this through before making a significant move. Buffalo News: if the Boston Bruins want to make a trade this summer, they could look to move these 5 players from their roster. Could David Krejci really be dealt? NBC Sports Boston, predicting what Isles GM Lou Lamoriello is thinking is when it comes to hiring a head coach is almost impossible. Newsday: when you look at the Dallas Stars' expected goals, it's easy to see why their second power play unit struggled so badly in 2017-18. Dallas Morning News: the Washington Post takes a behind-the-scenes look at the Capitals' journey to the Stanley Cup. From their exit meetings after last year's second-round loss to Pittsburgh to Barry Trotz ripping into his players after a loss to Colorado, this article has it all. Washington Post: former Bruin and 2-time Stanley Cup champion Johnny McKenzie passed away at the age of 80. NHL.com: the Philadelphia Flyers could be one of the teams looking to move up in the first round to draft Finnish center Jesperi Kotkaniemi. NBC Sports Philadelphia: the Golden Knights acquired Nikita Gusev in a deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was named an Olympic All-Star, he led the KHL in assists and he was named a KHL All-Star. Gusev probably won't play for Vegas next year, but they're hoping that he'll join the team in the next few years. Sinbin, Vegas: the Montreal Canadiens have 4 second-round picks in this month's entry draft. What should they do with those picks? Habs' eyes on the prize fills us in. Habs' eyes on the prize: check out this flip book of Alex Ovechkin hoisting the Stanley Cup. It's pretty cool. Machine never breaks. Joey Alfieri is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter at Joey Alfieri. There will be some must-see TV on Monday night. Alex Ovechkin, made famous in recent hours by such exploits as this, and Braden Holtby, who has done this, and this in roughly the same time frame, will stumble their way onto the set of NBC's The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon on Monday. The two 2018 Stanley Cup champions will grace the legendary stage at 11:35 p.m. Related, Capitals enjoyed a with Stanley Cup at Nationals game. It remains to be seen if either man will have sobered up by the airing of the episode. There's evidence out there that suggests the Conn Smythe winner Ovechkin took a slight break from his onslaught on liquor bottles and swimming in 2-inch deep bodies of water. Meanwhile, Capitals forward Jakub Vrana did many things on Saturday, including getting tattoos of their Stanley Cup triumph with Andrei Burakovsky. His whole Instagram story is something to behold, and if you have some free seconds, should watch it in its entirety. Here's a sneak peek. This might be the greatest Stanley Cup victory celebration since this. Scott Billeck is a writer for Pro Hockey Talk on NBC Sports. Drop him a line at pitblog@nbcsports.com or follow him on Twitter @ScottBilleck.